Hello. So I watched episode 2 of Secret Invasion. I would say it's marginally better, but it's still awful. The writing is so bad and the story is so dumb. There's so much stupidity in this show. I could kind of understand why people might enjoy it, but there are so many holes that just scream out to me that it really affects how I watch it. The very beginning of this episode has some tension in it, but it's immediately lost by the injection of the race stuff again. There is an element of purpose to it in the first instance, but it's also dumb and clearly intentionally inserted. But I'll get onto that when I go to the spoilers section, because I think I need to expand on that properly. Once again, the villain's plan makes no sense. One thing, they're saying they want a home when they already have a home. There's a place where they're all living together, or the ones who want to are all living together and can be their natural selves. So it makes no sense. There's plenty in this stuff that just doesn't make sense, and I'm going to have to go straight into spoilers because I have to do that to explain the level of stupidity. It starts off with a recap of Captain Marvel. Though Captain Marvel is notably absent, I presume that's to save money so they didn't have to pay Brie Larson. It then fast forwards a few years and you see a de-aged Nick Fury being introduced to Gravik, who is the main antagonist. And Nick Fury persuades the Skrulls that are there to join S.H.I.E.L.D. and spy for him, and in return he and Captain Marvel will find a homeworld for them. To indicate their agreement, they change into human form. Except for Gravik, he doesn't. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understand, not all Skrulls can change appearance. That was established in Captain Marvel. And they also seem to need to copy somebody, which is also established in the first episode. So you've got to wonder what's happening to all these people they're copying. I'm guessing, and this is headcanon, maybe they adopted dead people's appearances and S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of helped them disappear, or helped them integrate, shall I say. There's just a weird, and it's kind of more relevant as we go on, and I explain the whole episode. So now we go to the aftermath of the explosion. As I say, this bit's quite tense. There's a good bit of drama here. I mean, it's very short. There is a suspect who is a Skrull, although the authorities who are taking him away don't know that because he's pretending to be American. And Nick Fury is manhandled into the back of a van. It looks like he's being black bagged, but it turns out it's Talos. New scene, it's a train, and some guards knock on a carriage door and ask the person inside, who is Talos disguised as a woman, if she's seen a black American, and there's a comment about the likelihood of seeing a black American on this train. Goes into the compartment and tells Nick Fury to come out of the toilet. Now, it's established that Nick Fury is considered responsible for the explosion by the Russians. And they've just established pretty much that a black man stands out in Moscow. They established that last episode and they've just established it again. So how does he get onto the train? Why are they letting the train go if anyone noticed him? Why are they letting trains leave Moscow if there's a manhunt? Why is he sitting by the flaming window when they pull into a train station? It's just the level of dumb. What follows is a really quite tenuously introduced conversation. Now, there is a purpose to this conversation which works well. However, the delivery is once again talking about race. In this particular case, it mentions segregation on trains. You know, I'm on a train. Oh, I remember riding a train. I'm making no comments about that not being a horrible time, but it seems to be at the forefront of the speech he gives rather than being an incidental comment, and especially following what I said about a black American on the train. It also feels a little strange, him referencing what were obviously the horrors of segregation to a man whose species is literally being wiped out across the whole universe. It feels like the writers injecting something without thinking of the context they're injecting it into. The point of the conversation is salient and it has follow through. It's just the context is a little wonky, and it gets even wonkier. The point is that he's trying to get Talos to tell him something he doesn't know. So Talos reveals that he found Skrulls scattered all over the universe, and those that hadn't joined a particular group he brought back to Earth. And there's about 1 million of them. This pisses Fury off monumentally, and Talos once again reiterates that they were being hunted to extinction across the universe. Fury's angry with him, which I get, and it's quite a nice confrontation between the two of them, a good bit of acting from both of them. And obviously Fury feels betrayed, but you've just told a story about the awful situation of segregation And your response to somebody talking about their race being the victims of genocide is to kind of get pissed off, and he kicks him off the train. He tells him to get off the train. And he also says that the human race can't live together, we can't live with another species. Again, the writers clearly have forgotten that the Asgardians live on Earth. Now, if they'd made the point about humans not being able to live with a species that can change shape, I could understand that, because I'm presuming that's why Skrulls are so universally hated, because they can basically live undiscovered. They can almost invade from the inside, and there is reference later in the show about that having happened before. So if Fury had mentioned that as being why they couldn't settle there, why so many shouldn't be there, you could understand it, but he doesn't. And it completely contradicts the fact the Asgardians are living there quite peacefully and quite happily, and in fact are a tourist location. Being cynical, maybe it would break the analogy they're clumsily trying to make. There's a brief scene with Maria Hill's mother and Fury talking to her as Maria Hill's coffin is being loaded onto a plane. He tells her what happened, because no one else will, and also admits that it's his fault that Gavik killed her to get back at him. Again, it's an okay scene because both of the actors are cracking actors. But like the previous one, and like several more to come, it's people standing around or sitting around just talking again. Gravik goes to a council meeting. He's thrilled at the thought because he wants to see their faces after murdering 2,000 odd people. They start reading the riot act. He just turns it around on them. He also refers to humans as the man. Clearly a loaded statement that is supposed to echo a kind of analogy, I'm guessing. A comparison between the bigotry between humans and the bigotry they're facing. And that analogy can exist. However, these writers don't have either the skill or the intelligence to pull this off properly. Because in this conversation, we get an inkling of why they might be hated. Because they've been involved in war before. And besides that, the Skrulls around the table have manoeuvred themselves into positions of power and authority. And here again, you have the situation where one of them is the UK Prime Minister. Well, you've copied somebody. So who have you copied? Have you copied the UK Prime Minister? In which case, where is she? And the other people, who have you copied? And where are they? Why was Fury okay with that? It's just strange. I'm guessing they've just forgotten that a little bit. Anyway, he's being smug, full of his own self-importance, and tells them they need to make him general. Turns out the Skrull who's pretending to be the UK Prime Minister agrees with him. She's clearly on his side and has been all along. One of them dissents and gets quickly silenced. The speed at which they bend over to him is ridiculous. This dude's got no real leverage, and these people are powerful people. They've secreted themselves into positions of power, which again, I don't know why. Their plan wasn't to invade, they're just living their lives, so why would they put themselves into positions of power? I mean, if they were doing that so that they could make life more habitable and safe for the other Skrulls on the planet and enable them to live peacefully, fine. But that's the only reason I can think that they'd open themselves up to so much scrutiny. Anyway, one of them objects and she's allowed to walk out. She rings Talos and tells him what's happening. Meanwhile, Talos' daughter Gaia seems to be playing both sides. When they go back to their home, which is obviously where all the Skrulls can live completely like themselves, you know, buy the land, change it, build stuff, make it your home. You don't have to kill everyone on the planet. That's what I mean. His plan is to kill everyone on the planet, and that bunch of people around the meeting just capitulate within seconds. And the people are all cheering because obviously they're happy that he's killed 2,000 people. I don't get that. Guy discovers there's some scientific research and it looks like it's to create a super Skrull. And anyone who hasn't read the comics, originally that was a Skrull who had the powers of the Fantastic Four and more have developed since with various powers. There's a little bit with Rhodey talking to the heads of state and then he meets with Fury. And this is an okay scene, although it's not Rhodey. This doesn't feel like Rhodey at all, so whether they're inferring he's a Skrull, I don't know. This just does not feel like him. The things he says to Fury and the way he treats Fury just doesn't feel like that character. And again, the colour of their skin is brought out and it's utterly irrelevant. And again, it feels like it's just plonked in. It feels cheap and it doesn't feel like something that either Rhodey and especially not Nick Fury would say. Nick Fury is literally saying to Rhodey, hey, we're both black, so help me out. It's just bizarre. It's just a weird thing. Rhodey says he's going to be escorted out. There's a car waiting for him and he's been sacked. Nick Fury suddenly has skills and disarms one of the men, which is convenient because earlier he didn't have skills, clearly because the plot didn't require it. We get a old man Fury moment. Then we have Olivia Colman arriving at the scene where Russian security services are torturing the Skrull who's pretending to be American, and she says she'll take over. And it might just be this character, but every man she ever talks to is useless compared to her. And it's quite funny because the Russian is saying, I've thrown everything at him and he won't talk. It's like he's got a little bit of a bloody nose. You clearly didn't throw everything at him because he's still got all his body parts attached. It was just very strange. Anyway, they leave. She tortures him, gets the information out of him because of course she does. In fairness, they didn't know they were dealing with a Skrull. She did, so she knew what she needed to do. Because Skrulls are physically stronger than humans and therefore, I would imagine, more resilient to the physical punishment. But chopping limbs off, that's going to hurt everybody. So again, doesn't make sense. Gravik comes and rescues him. Reasonable action scene. Unfortunately, it's interspersed with not an action scene. It just damages the flow. However, it turns out Gaia has reported where the safe house is. They think it's the guy they've rescued, so they kill him. The final scene is Nick Fury walking up to a house, and inside there's a Skrull woman cutting vegetables. And this is a Skrull who introduced him to Gravik. He walks in, and she's reverted into a black woman, makes a comment about hasn't he forgotten something. He puts a wedding ring on, and they kiss. Now, I made a comment about this to somebody on a forum. This just feels very weird to me, and I don't know why. Not necessarily that Nick Fury's married, I mean that's odd enough, but that the Skrull that he's married to takes the appearance of a black woman. You know, you've got a Skrull who could look like anything, and yet she appears as a black woman to be with Nick Fury. Is Nick Fury only with her because she looks like a black woman? Why did she revert into a human form when he came in? When he knows she's a Skrull, so why would that bother him? Why would she do it? It just all feels a bit odd. You know, sometimes you can't think of a reason why something just feels off, but it just does. And that just felt a bit off to me. And that's where the episode ends. And again, lots of talking around tables, lots of exposition, lots of stupidity, lots of identity politics awkwardly interjected into a story. Maybe I'm being too negative, maybe I'm expecting too much. Maybe it'll develop into something better, but just not feeling it. By the way, I have to credit Charles, who commented on my last video about the Asgardians living on Earth. That hadn't occurred to me, and that becomes very pertinent, as I say, within this episode. Anyway, I think I've said everything I was going to say. If you have anything to add, or if you can understand what I'm saying about the scene at the end, or whether you think I'm just talking bollocks, that's fine, I don't mind. I say it's not something I'm fully settled in my head on, and I could be seeing intersectional shadows. I'd be interested to hear it anyway. Please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for listening, and peace out.